All right, awesome. Now that we're getting this recorded, I am Jessica Nichols, and I um, wanted to do this because I think that as a mom who has two kids, not quite yet teenagers, but heading that way, I know that it seems to be like there is this whole stigma around how parenting teenagers can be deemed as the hardest part of parenting. And so um, I started Happy Moms because I wanted to provide moms with resources, connection, community, and ultimately be able to provide just materials to learn, because when we know better, we can do better. And I was a mom who was burnt out, overwhelmed, and I just found myself, I wanted to be a good mom, but I found myself not loving who I had become as a mom. I loved being a mom, but I wasn't my best. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm not loving this. I don't feel connected to my kids. I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. I should be enjoying this time. I work full time and then I only get a little bit of time with them, and it shouldn't be yelling. It shouldn't be, overstimulated. It shouldn't be needing wine to calm down at the end of the night because it was, chaos. And so I dove into personal development. I dove into wanting to get to know why I was so reactive and why I was this way. And what I found is that I became a better mom the more that I took care of myself, the more that I took time to really hone in on who I am and what I love, and taking care of my body physically, which led to mentally being fitter and just having more patience and more understanding. And I feel so much more connected to my kids. I feel so much more, I feel like a good mom. I feel like I'm able to actually help them control their emotions, learn about their emotions, and give them the space to understand emotions, because now I'm able to do that. I want to pay that forward to other moms. I know that there's moms out there who feel like they're drowning, feel like there's a weight so heavy on them that there's nowhere to turn. Like, they feel alone. They feel like this is it. Like, this is motherhood. Maybe when my kids are grown, I'll start to take care of myself. That's when I'll be able to live. That's when I'll feel good. But the truth is that we can be healthy. We can be good moms. We can be the moms that we want to be right now. We can take care of ourselves right now, but it starts with us. And so that's where Really Happy Moms was birthed from, just a place of wanting to help those moms out there that are in a place that I once was, know that they're not alone, and we can come out of that, and we can do it now. We can truly enjoy motherhood and thrive through motherhood, not just survive. And so my goal is to bring in resources like Robin, who has joined us today so graciously, to help us just learn how to handle situations, learn how to be the best we can. The more knowledge, the more information we have, the more we can try, the more things that we can do with our kids. And so, Robin, if you would just introduce yourself and share with us a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what you do.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jessica, for having me on. I consider it definitely an honor and a pleasure. Hello, everyone. My name is Robin Savage. I am a dream life coach and founder and owner of Let's Rise Academy, which is a life coaching firm. My primary focus is on teenagers. So I have a leadership academy, a 12-week virtual program to help students break through self-sabotaging behaviors, work together with other students on their own growth journey, and they work together on those soft skills, those leadership skills that they're going to need both in school and outside of school. And they get the opportunity to create a service project in the process. So they work on themselves, they learn to work together, and then they give what they have to other people, which has been absolutely amazing. I live in New Jersey, born and raised in southern New Jersey, and in my previous life, I was a high school teacher, well, middle school and then high school teacher. I taught for 31 years and just retired from teaching last June. So this has been my first
Yeah.
full year a retiree. And I say that in quotes because I'm not totally retired, because I jumped right back in working with teens. Teens have been very near and dear to my heart for a long time. I am the mother of two. My husband and I have been married for, well, 31 years. 2 weeks ago, actually, we celebrated that anniversary. And we have two young men, two boys who they're 28 and 23, both are married. So I definitely know what it's like to live that life as a mom and raising teenagers, and working with teenagers in my career. Like I said, for 31 years, yeah, teens are my heart. Some people find them scary, but I
That's why we're
find
coming to
them
watch this. That's why we're coming to watch this, right?
I love them. I absolutely love them. So,
You can tell.
yeah.
I love the way that you talk about them because you can just tell you light up and you emit this like aura about it. And I can appreciate that. And I know that other moms will as well. I just want to point out, I love that. I love your passion for teens and what you're doing in your program for them, because I wish I knew this information when I was younger. I wish that I always say it's great that we teach this stuff in school, but why don't we teach taking care of yourself? Why don't we teach like the mental health aspect of exactly what you're doing in the Let's Rise Academy, which is so awesome that you are just loving them and supporting them and really getting them to step outside their comfort zone and working to, the community project and things like that is really what we need. Like, and you can speak to this, but I have always had this thought like, if we give them the tools that they need at a younger age, it's like we're setting them up for success versus waiting for them to go through life without the tools and then learn them after that. Like, I feel like that's what I was doing. I'm 35 years old and learning how to prioritize myself, learning how to handle emotions, learning how to work through tough situations. It's like I didn't know any of this prior. And so the fact that you have such a heart for teens and have opened up this program to allow them to learn about themselves and develop these tools so that they have it from a younger age is like, gosh, we need to do that for every teen.
I agree, and I definitely, agree with your sentiment there. And that probably was one of my frustrations, as an educator, year after year, seeing students learn the book knowledge, right?
Yeah,
But the they would struggle emotionally, and we're in a society now where it's very easy to identify what the triggers are and identify emotions, but that's great. But what's the other half? How do you manage them? And they're
right.
not taught that, right? And yes, it took me so, well, my 50s to actually learn some of these things. And when I was going through my own training for my certification, I did broach this topic with some of my students, my high schoolers, and said, "Hey, what would you think if you learned something like this?" And they're like, "Oh my goodness, that'd be awesome." And that's kind of how this program came about, really. Just marrying that idea of, again, mindset, limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, emotions, all of that, learning how the strategies to manage those things, also working on skills like collaboration, effective communication, time management, goal setting, money management. I mean, all of those things that are necessary just for life, right? Let alone in colleges and trade schools or in the workplace. So, yeah, so I'm really excited about this, and what's happening with the students, what they're doing, and excited for like the new groups that will be coming up as well.
Awesome. So my goal here for this is now as your kids are growing, hitting, preteens and then going into the teen phase of life, as parents, what can we do? This brings up even just for myself, like thinking about it, like the emotions of now we're letting them kind of blossom into their own. What is like for me, it's the releasing of the allowing them to kind of go into their own, make their own choices. Where's that respect? Like, the communication piece, giving them a little bit more space and so but maintaining that connection. And I labeled this connecting with your teen because I want to, how do we maintain a connection while still allowing them to grow into who they are and what they want to do, giving them more of a voice, giving them space, but maintaining a connection with them. If you could give a few tips or give us some your words of wisdom to maintain a connection, maintain that relationship with them, what would you tell us?
Well, I mean, I have a list of things, and it's not an exhaustive list. However, I mean, we all can agree that connecting with teenagers can be challenging, right? For reasons that, you just mentioned, Jessica. They are going to want to exert some independence because that is part of the growth process. They're going to want to explore ideas and perspectives outside of the home because, again, that's part of the process as well. But it is crucial for us as parents to foster that strong, trusting relationship. So I am going to share some tips to help parents foster that deeper connection with their teens. But as a side note, I do want to say, even though I'm focusing on teens, if you are a parent of a preteen or even a child younger than that, a lot of these tips will still be very useful to you. And what I think is really cool about this is doing so when your child is younger is really going to help you create that space for this type of connection with your child before they actually become a teenager. So when they actually do become a teenager, you'll already have systems in place that can kind of keep it going, right? So that's important, and it's really cool that you have that chance to put some things in place. It won't be foreign to them. You may have to shift and adjust a little bit because, everybody changes, right? But at least you kind of have a toolbox that you can work from. As another side note, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there are no cookie cutter strategies here.
You're telling me there's
There just
not a
are.
textbook for this, that you're not going to tell us
Sorry,
exactly.
there. No,
Uh,
no, sorry, because not every tip is going to work for every child, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're the expert of your own child.
right.
You know your child best. You're with your child all of the time. So you will know whether this tip is going to work with your daughter, but won't work with your son, or whether it's working this year, but it's not going to work next year. So you have that flexibility, of course, to adjust and shift and make changes if you need to. My suggestion as I go through these, and it won't take long. I mean, I have 10, but which won't take long, but it will help you to pick a strategy, maybe just one that you feel that you can use that makes sense for your child and your family, right? Because I mean, depending on what's happening in a family, might not be able to commit to some of these. So yeah, so that's what I figured I would do. And if it's okay, I'll just jump in.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
just want to note that because I'm taking notes. I have somebody who's got a 12-year-old, so I'm gumming into these preteens. Um, a system in place. Like I just loved how you said, like you're paving the way. Start it now. I laugh. I labeled this. If you have a three-nager, a preteen, or a teen, you're not going to want to miss this because I feel like I've been dealing with a teenager since my daughter was born. She's 9. Like she just has that like strong-willed, very independent, want like ever since she was born. My son is the softie. He's loves to be, he loves to be around people. He loves to be with mom. He's very much a people person and very easygoing. You can reason with him very easily. My daughter is not. And so which is great, but I need to understand how to there, like you said, one thing would work with her that's not going to work with him and vice versa. But getting systems in place
Mhm.
even from a younger age, even if you don't have a teen, like starting young, because, and I just relate that back to us. Like if we take care of ourselves and if we have systems in place for us, it spills over to them, right? Like
Mhm.
they or we actions speak louder than words. We don't even have to
Yes.
like tell them, but if we're showing them by what we're doing. So I love that you said that. I wrote that down because I think that's great for, yeah, we don't have to hit a certain age and be like, okay, now we're
Right.
starting from the beginning and just kind of building on that and adjusting and pivoting as the ages change or as things change. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So the first tip that I have for you is to create shared rituals. And like if you establish some regular activities or rituals that you all can enjoy together, that's kind of a cool thing. It could be something as simple as like a weekly movie night, right? Something, you put a movie on and you pop some popcorn and you're just together. It could be like cooking a meal together or going out for a walk or just about anything. It doesn't have to be anything big and extravagant. It's the whole act of being together. And that you're going to hear that a lot tonight. That thread is going to go through a lot of these tips, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But what these rituals or these special activities, regular activities do is they help to provide a consistent and like relaxed atmosphere. So that connection and conversation can take place. I remember when my own boys were young and driving them back and forth like to soccer practices or like a road trip to a soccer game or a tournament, and sometimes our best conversations occurred in the car
Mhm.
because we were just together, right? And those types of things. And it was really one of those things that became a routine. My husband drove the kids to school a lot because he taught at the school where they attended. So the mornings was time for them to have conversations, and it was just really cool to be able to have something that's consistent. So, and like I said, it could be something weekly, maybe something that everybody looks forward to. Maybe you go for walks after dinner. Maybe that's a thing. And it's like, you know what? Let's get out and be active. Maybe Saturday mornings you're out in the yard working in a garden together. That's a routine that can happen, an activity that also can foster that communication and just connection during that time. And it's low key, so, and that's a big thing too. It doesn't have to be, super serious all the time, which is kind of nice. Okay. Now, the second tip that I have for you is to show genuine interest in their passions, especially when they are hitting those teenage years, and they start to be exposed to so many more things outside of the family. They may find, all of these years they were like into baseball, and then now they've been exposed to, I don't know, you name the sport, volleyball. And that might be something you just really don't understand. You're not interested in it. You would rather not have to be there. But if you take an active interest in your teens' hobbies and interests, even if they're different from your own, it really gives them that opportunity to uh, know that you value them as an individual. And that's a big deal for them too, especially as they are trying to figure out where they fit and who they are, to know that even if their interests are different from yours and you value them, that's a big deal for them. It shows that you are willing to support what they love. So I definitely encourage that one as well. Another thing, the third step that I have for you, or tip, I should say, is to encourage open conversation or communication with journaling, which
Mm.
isn't one that is talked about a lot. But if you are the type of person who journals yourself, and Jessica, I know you do, um, there is an opportunity to be expressive in a way that you might not face to face. Now, this type of journal that I'm talking about is more of a shared journal. It could just be a notebook, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it's where you and your teen essentially have an opportunity to write letters to each other. And like, why that? Well, what it does is it can be a space for them to express their thoughts and feelings in a less confrontational way. And when you respond in writing, the beautiful thing about that is it also helps parents articulate their thoughts and
Mm.
advice in a more thoughtful way. I don't know about all of you, but I have been in situations as a parent where, in the heat of the moment, my head knows the things I should say, but I don't know what comes out of my mouth. It's
Mm.
not helpful or productive at all because you're in the heat of the moment. Or the teen, your child, may react because they generally do react to whatever energy we're putting out there in a
Right.
way that comes across as disrespectful or rude. And it might not be what they are trying to convey, but they're caught up. And being able to sit and write out how you're feeling about those situations allows you to actually think it through. And it gives them that space too. And the cool thing is, you get to read what each other writes, but you also are reading it from a different perspective in a different place, a place of calmness, a
Yeah.
place of a willingness to be able to truly see or hear your teen's side of the issue. And that is a very helpful one.
So I can't believe you just said this because I just met with my coach and we talked about this very thing because I had a situation not too long ago with my youngest, and she and I were just we were having a disagreement. We weren't on the same page, and she's very strong-willed, and so I was trying to stay calm, and so I was talking to my coach about this situation, and she said write to each other. Write, because that way she can tell you if she maybe is reading what you're writing. Maybe there's a misunderstanding. Maybe what you were trying to convey to her, because she was upset and she wasn't really hearing what you were saying, and maybe vice versa. Maybe I was upset and wasn't really hearing what she was saying. But if we write it and then read it, and then after we're kind of calm, you can even go back, like you can sit with each other and kind of go through
Mhm.
it. No, you misunderstood what I was saying. This is what I was trying to say. And so when you said, I'm a big journal. Like these guys in
Yes,
Happy Moms know that I talk about journaling on like probably a daily basis. I think it's so important. And
agreed.
instilling that in our kids. My kids journal. They may not be writing books, but they're doodling. Riley writes about her day all the time. And I think that's so cool. And I hope that that evolves into, more in depth and getting to talk to, just getting to know themselves and writing their thoughts down. But I love
Mhm.
how you said write to each other, because I've never even thought to do that at all. And it just literally was brought up this week. And then you say this. So it's like confirmation that
Wow.
how cool.
That is cool. And when you think about it, I mean, how many times do we say, "Oh, I wish I'd said this," or "I wish I said it this way."
Yes.
And when
Yes.
you're face to face, I mean, you only get one chance really to
Yeah.
get your point across and get the reaction you're hoping to get, right?
Right.
Because if you don't say it the way you want to say it initially, the person's going to react on what you actually said. I mean,
Correct.
you could write it and look at it and say, "Oh no, it's still not what I want," and then rewrite it. I mean,
Yes.
you really have time to hone in on what you're really trying to say, and that's a really cool skill, I think, for teenagers to have as or anyone really as they're growing up, to be able to kind of process what they're feeling and also be able to read what someone else wrote and hear from their perspective as well.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay, cool. So the fourth one is to empower your teen with responsibility.
Mm.
Um, there were times in my teaching career where I would ask, we would do something, some activity, and I'd relate to something like, "Do you have chores that you do?" And the number of darlings who would say, "No, I don't have, I only have to make my bed," or something like that. And I'm thinking, "You're 16," but it's not my business, right? But the cool thing about empowering your teens, you can do things like involving them in some decision-making processes. I mean, obviously, there are some things that go beyond a teen's involvement. We know that, right? But there are some processes that affect the family that they can be involved in, like maybe involved in planning a vacation, like they may have some input that they can give, or maybe budgeting for a new purchase. One thing that I do remember with my older son, he was probably about 10 years old, and he liked golf. So he and my husband would go out and golf. And at that time, he wanted a Tiger Woods golf bag. We were going to get him a new golf bag, but it wasn't going to be that one because that one was like, I don't know, maybe $50 more. And we said, "Well, this is what we're prepared to get. If you really want that one, then you need to earn the money to get it." And he tried to find out ways that he actually could make that money so that he could get the bag he wanted. And what a cool thing for him to
Yeah.
realize that one, things do cost money, and it's
Right.
good to be able to find solutions for these things that you do want. So helping him through that process was really cool. But yeah, giving them a voice in these matters can foster a sense of responsibility and partnership as well. It's not always it's the way I say,
Right.
and
Right.
it's showing that you do trust their judgment and you value their input also. And those are some key words there, like trusting their judgment and valuing their input that will resonate with them as they're getting older again, because they are trying to become more independent. And, they don't always want to be told things, we know. However, if they recognize that you do value what they have to say, it does make the path a lot smoother, for sure. Uh,
Yeah. And do you think that they maybe take it a little bit more seriously or put more thought into like decision making if they know that there's actual value to it? Um, I just think that, even at my oldest is going to be 11 or is going to be 12. And I do notice with him, like if he feels like he's older, more mature, taken more seriously, like he acts more mature, more serious, like he puts
mhm,
more, and so it's like if he knows that we take him serious or his voice has weight and then it's like, is he going to make a better choice because he knows? Is he going to act, a certain, I just
right.
wonder if like having those, if we're constantly telling him like, no, 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 is he going to care? Is he going to put as much effort and things into making, better choices or things like that? I don't know, just a thought.
Well, I mean, giving if you give them more responsibility and you are showing that you can trust them to do more things, it's raising the bar,
Right. Yes.
and the one thing about children and teens, and us as adults too, really, for that matter, if you lower the bar too low, then there's no motivation to make progress, right?
Right.
If you raise the bar and it's like, okay, you know what? You can handle this.
Right.
Most of the time, they're going to try to meet it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they may not quite get there, but they will get far closer to the bar than they would if you had it very low. So
Right.
I'm sure it has some impact. I mean, I don't know the scientific
Yeah.
research on that, but just from, observation, that if when they're given more responsibility, like I saw it in the classroom as well, if
Yeah.
someone was responsible for a specific task, they did take it a lot more seriously, more times than not,
Right.
because they felt somebody was trusting them. And they
Right.
also knew that they had a responsibility. I mean, it can go the other way, I'm sure, in some cases, but in most cases, it seems like that definitely helps them take things a little more seriously.
Yeah. Makes sense.
All right. The fifth one I have here is to model vulnerability and empathy. And you said something earlier, Jessica, that when you said it, I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Um, we do have to model for our kids what we actually want them to do. So it's good when you can share your own experiences and emotions with your teenager, including challenges that you may have had and maybe mistakes that you've made, right? When you model vulnerability, it helps them to see you as relatable. You're actually human. And that's great because that does foster that deeper emotional connection that they can have with a parent. When they feel that the parent has never done anything wrong, has never made any mistakes, they feel that they can never measure up and that they can't be accepted, and when they do say, oh, yeah, yep, mom's human.
Yeah.
It makes you definitely makes you more relatable. And when you pair that with empathy by actively listening and validating their feelings without like immediate judgment or advice, you've got a win-win situation there because they see how it's okay to fall. It's okay to make a mistake. What are we learning from those mistakes? What are the lessons that we've gained along the way? And mom, you did not, automatically, you didn't call me names. You didn't, put me
Right.
down. You didn't. decide that I was no longer worthy of doing X, Y, or Z, that is definitely a win-win because they feel comfortable enough to fail and comfortable enough to try, which we always want for our kids. We want them to have that fire in them where they're willing to go out and to do things and explore and, kind of test the waters a little bit to figure out where they belong without the fear of um, letting down a parent because they just don't measure up.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually just posted, you are hitting on so many, this is why I love this stuff. I just posted this week about, and like you said, that this is things that you can, because I posted this week and I was not directing it towards teens. I was literally directing it towards anybody who has a child who gives up too easily. And sitting with them and talking about, in situations where maybe you haven't succeeded, you've tried to do something and you failed, or you've done something and you've made a mistake, but you've tried, and like explaining to them, getting comfortable with talking about when we haven't always gotten it right, or we tried something new and we weren't great at it, or, and knowing that it's okay. And then asking them to share with you a time that, they made a mistake, or they, struggled in something in school, or they tried a new sport and they didn't like it, or, and just getting comfortable. And this literally plays right into it. You, again, going from a young age to older, we can have these conversations no matter what age they are and start to get comfortable with them being comfortable talking to us. Like there's so many wins
Correct.
that we could pull out of that.
Absolutely. And I also think when we talk about, modeling vulnerability, I was talking to someone yesterday, as a matter of fact, who also loves teens. And we were having this conversation about something I mentioned earlier about how many teens are able to identify those emotions that they're feeling and the triggers, but they don't know what to do with that,
Mm.
and as a parent, we get that opportunity to model that. Yeah, we have anger, we have fear, we have disappointment. We experience all of those things. We experience loss. But being able to model for our kids, how do we handle these emotions? What do we do with them? That's another skill that is just so incredibly crucial for young people to learn. Um, and not have to wait until they're older with families and trying to figure it out. And then also passing down, right? Some of those maybe inefficient ways of handling emotions. And if they can learn it now, it can carry them through the rest of their lives and it can affect their future families, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This is one of the reasons that was kind of eye-opening to me as to I need to work on myself. I would get upset with Deegan for being, reactive over just the smallest things. And I had to take a good a good hard look at where he was learning how to deal with those emotions. Why was he overreactive? Well, I was doing the same thing. He was literally learning the
Mhm.
behavior. So we can either pass down the good ways of handling our emotions and showing them, or what are we teaching them, looking at how we react and how we handle our emotions, and what are they learning from us, because again, actions speak louder. And
Right.
that was hard, taking responsibility for my own actions and saying, God, he's learning this stuff from me. I'm literally teaching them because I don't know how to I was struggling with my own emotions. I had anger, I had resentment, I had all of these
Mhm.
things, and I didn't realize that my son at a young age was modeling the same behavior when he was getting frustrated, when he was
Right.
getting angry. Yeah. And it's so
Mm.
true. And all it takes is it starts with us. So many of these things, it truly does start with us.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're new here.
Right.
They're new here, I mean, we've been around for a while,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
yeah, it is our responsibility to pass these things on to our children. Not saying it's easy, and oh, it's so definitely not easy, but it's worth it, right? It's
Mhm.
so worth it for the outcome. Absolutely. So the sixth one that I have is establish a tech-free time together.
I love
And
this one.
I'm sorry. I know this is a touchy one sometimes because it's not just the teens or kids who are so attached to their phone. How many times have you picked up your phone today? I can't even tell you how many times I picked up mine. I can't because I don't even know. But if you can designate a specific time, maybe each day or each week, where both you and your teen disconnect from technology, that is awesome because you can use that time to engage in meaningful conversations. You might play board games or maybe work on a project together, which is pretty cool. And that undistracted time ultimately can help deepen your connection and show your teen that they have your full attention. I mean, have you ever tried talking to your child when all you could see is the top of their head because they're like this on their phone? Okay. And they're not fully paying attention to you.
Right,
Well, let's flip it. Have they ever tried to have a conversation with you and you were fully engaged
right,
scrolling
right,
or whatever it might be? Maybe you're on your computer. I don't know. Could be the TV for all we know, right? So
right.
being able for them to know that they have your undivided time, even if it's just for like 30 minutes, right? I mean, you can determine how long it's going to be and what you're going to do with that time. But without those distractions, you'd be surprised. They'll talk.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
will talk, and you can share some pretty amazing conversations with your teen when you can remove some distractions. And that's another thing too. I mean, because they are young, they still don't fully grasp how to put limits on their time.
mhm,
Again, we as adults still struggle with that as well.
yeah,
So imagine with teenagers how much more difficult that is for them to put limits on it. And that is where we do step in as parents and say, hey, you know what? Every Thursday evening at 6:30 for 6:30 to 7:30, tech free. And we're going to do whatever you would both enjoy. And yeah, we could be surprised at what kind of conversations come out of that. And sometimes they even look forward to it, truthfully,
yeah.
which is a surprise too.
I love it. We lost power here not too long ago, and the internet was out, the TVs were out, everything was out, and our phones don't even actually work well here when you don't have internet. So everybody, it was like, we were back in the 90s where there was like nothing and we were playing board games and we had lights going. And it was fun. After a while, you were like, oh my gosh, how do we live like this?
Right.
But it was really fun to unplug and just it was eye-opening to everybody was just sitting around on the floor. We had board games, we had card games, we had all kinds of stuff going on, and it was really fun. And I think that that was definitely eye-opening too. This is something we need to do more often for sure.
Yeah, I think in the world where so much is based on tech,
Hmm.
and just because of the nature of smartphones and how we have become so dependent on them for so many things, being able to unplug every now and again, I mean, I think it's good for us up here.
For
And
sure.
it's definitely good for us in our relationships as well, right?
Yeah,
Because it gives us time to actually focus on the person that we want, the people we want in our lives that we want to focus on, which is cool.
agreed.
So, number seven, how about incorporating their music into your world?
Mm.
Their music. Sometimes their musical styles are different from ours. Uh, and you can ask your teenager to share their favorite music with you. Maybe they can create a playlist that you could listen to during car rides or while doing chores around the house. It's cool when you can discuss the lyrics, kind of see what they mean to them. Sometimes they don't actually know what the lyrics mean and might need to, step in a little bit sometimes, but it's interesting to hear it from their perspective too. That's kind of what I'm really going at here. It not only shows that you respect their taste, you know, um, but it does open up, another opportunity for discussion, right, on topics that are important to them as well. Uh, there was a time when actually both of my boys went through a screamo phase. Not my favorite.
Right.
Not
You're
my
like,
favorite.
I'm not sure about
How
that playlist.
Well, they did have a playlist, yes, and they would play it in the car,
Yeah.
and then it got real when mom actually started singing.
Oh
Then it
my
was like a
gosh, I
whole other
love
level
it.
because they didn't think I actually was paying attention, and because I'm driving, and I
Right.
was, and then I'm just singing and
I
head
love
banging
it.
and all that.
That's awesome.
Um, I was glad when that phase
Fast.
That's for sure. But nonetheless, they thought it was kind of cool that they could listen to it. And yeah, and when you
For
have those
sure.
conversations about their musical choices and what draws them to this type of music, what do they like about it? Or have they considered other types? Just again, conversation and time together is like that thread that just is woven through all of this. All right, eight, plan surprise outings. I love this one. I do because I love to do spontaneous things myself.
Me
So
too.
here you organize spontaneous. I know it sounds funny to say organize spontaneous, but it's more that it's spontaneous for your child. So
Okay.
you organize these spontaneous outings that really cater to their interests, like maybe a visit to a new skate park or a trip to an art exhibit or maybe a surprise visit to their favorite restaurant. They don't know it's coming. And that's where the surprise is. So, like these unexpected adventures are so fun because they can really create these lasting memories and they get to demonstrate your willingness to really engage in their world. And that's important. They remember those things.
Mm,
They do. Those things stick with them because number one, they're unexpected, right? And those unexpected things tend to linger in our minds for quite some time. And it's not just the activity, it's that time with you and that you thought enough about them, that you truly want to spend that time with them. And it's the emotion that gets attached to it. Anytime emotion is attached to something, I mean, the effects are long lasting. And even when you have those storms, because I mean, let's be real, there will still be storms with a teenage child. There will. When you have those storms, you still have that bond that is there because you've been fostering these connections all throughout. And these surprise outings are definitely a lot of fun to put together, and it's a lot of fun to see their reactions when they get to participate in them.
I love it.
Ninth one I have here is to start a family project.
Mm,
Family projects can be like long-term projects that require some type of teamwork where people have to work together. Like maybe starting a garden could be a family project. It could involve, maybe building something or maybe building the beds for the garden or determining what plants are going to be planted, caring for it. It could be volunteering together. Maybe as a family, you decide that you want to take a few hours on a Saturday morning to volunteer for food donations or whatever it might be, right? Anything that you're working together with is awesome when you get to work towards a common goal as a family, and that strengthens your bond together. It provides opportunities for collaboration and shared accomplishments, which is also cool, especially when your teen kind of has some input into that, kind of going back to something we talked about earlier about allowing them a little bit of responsibility and maybe planning something that
mm.
the family can do together, which is another awesome, awesome thing.
Yeah, I love the volunteering together. I think that's really cool. And I think that there's so many other benefits to, yes, connecting the family, but I think you're connecting to you're teaching them so many other core values
Absolutely.
by doing that. I really like that piece.
Yeah. And finally, host a role reversal day. And this is I know this one's kind of crazy, okay, kind of little Freaky Friday thing here. This is where you kind of let your teenager take the lead for a day or a few hours if that's more comfortable for you, making decisions about activities, meals, plans. And in this case, this role reversal can give you some insight into your teen's preferences and also into their decision making process. How do they make decisions? Because they're going to have to make some in this tip here, and it shows that you trust their abilities. So there's that trust factor coming in again. It also can lead to really some fun and pretty enlightening experiences for both of you because you're kind of giving up some control, which is also a hard thing as your kids get older, right? Because when they're
Yeah.
young, we have all the control, but giving up some of that control. Um, I remember having, let's see, the kids each had an opportunity to make a meal during the week, as they were getting older.
Yeah.
And my older son, his favorite thing on earth was macaroni and cheese. And I taught him how to make baked macaroni and cheese. So he learned how to make that. Well, he added something different to it. So we're eating it, and I'm like, hmm. It's like, what is this flavor I'm tasting? He's like, oh, I added a little cinnamon, which honestly, it was really good, but
Mhm.
who would think to do that? So you're
Yeah,
kind of
right.
you fortunately that one worked out. But you never
They
know
got
what it's going to be. He
creative.
got creative, right? And that's a cool part too, because again, trying to get a little bit of insight into their decision making and
Yeah.
what they like to do. And he may never have considered exploring that option. Now he's 28 and he loves to cook and he's very creative in the kitchen. So it's kind of cool. And they learn things about themselves. They learn
Yeah.
things about themselves too, which is kind of a neat thing. So yeah, that was a little different,
That's
but I
cool.
wanted to throw that one in because it really can create some very interesting experiences for everybody when the teen has an opportunity to kind of take the lead for a little bit.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I am learning something that keeps coming to my head as I'm like writing all these notes down and is like truly just learning to enjoy the process of like learning who they are, like
Yeah,
understand, getting to allowing yourself to understand them and just enjoy them. And, because it can be difficult if we try and hold so much control or if we struggle with releasing. But if we kind of really just open up and allow ourselves to enjoy these kids and like learn about them, like all of these ways of connecting s- can be super fun if we allow
right.
them, like if we allow it to be fun. I think so many times we go in with like, we want to be done a certain way. Like I know I've planned events and the kids, I was like, why did I even do this? They whined the whole time. They didn't you like, but I
Yeah,
was trying to control so much of the situation. And when it didn't go a certain way, I was like, this was the worst idea in the world. Why did I waste my time? These kids are miserable. I didn't have fun. It's hotter than Hades out here. Like,
mm-hmm.
but I'm finding that if I let them just, if I try and relinquish some of the control and I don't go in with such high expectations of how things need to go and just enjoy them, just enjoy the day, just try and soak up the time. And, maybe we didn't go on all the rides, but maybe we walked through the park and we talked more
Right.
than like things like that, that I think sometimes we set expectations on how we think things have to go or how motherhood should go or how our kids should go. And ultimately, if we just create some rituals, if we work together, if we go volunteer together, if we do a movie night, if we do a card game where we're just slowing down and really just giving them a space to talk to us, to open up, to ask them questions. You said something about like what do they like about and I don't oh this was like a planning the surprise an
Mm-hmm.
outing, like what do they like about what we're doing or what do they like, and it's like, do we know why they choose music, why they choose screen music, what do you like about this, do we ask them what they like about my son does he doesn't play video games a ton, but there are certain games and he'll hop on and play and he'll come down and it's like video games are not my thing, they kind of drive me nuts, but instead of just kind of dismissing them, act like, what do you like about this game? Have I ever asked him what he truly likes about that game? Like in getting to
Right.
understand that piece of him. Oh, this was so good. You have so many things here that I think we've, I see this thing posted a lot going around Facebook, going around Instagram about having 18 summers with your kids. And that instantly gives me anxiety because it's like, oh my
Mm,
gosh, I'm already on summer number 12 and that means I only have six more. And but when I read through and I jot notes about these things that you just helped with, it's like life doesn't have to end. Like our relationship doesn't end with our kids at summer
Right.
18. And
Right.
these things are things that we can do into their adulthood. Like you now have a 28 like that can still come over and cook and you can have conversations over dinner and you can
Hmm.
still do like family dinners on a weekly or monthly basis where everybody's getting together like and this just gives me peace that like you don't have just this amount of time. Like you can start these things when they're young and you can do them into
Hmm.
their adulthoods.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I
And I
love that.
think,
It's,
oh, I'm sorry. I think a
no,
lot
no,
of
you're
pressure
fine.
also gets placed on the summers. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I taught. I lived for the summers,
Right.
right? I lived for the summers. But at the same time, there are moments like every day we have an opportunity for these moments.
Yes.
And some of my favorite memories, even going back to my own childhood, aren't just from the summer. They're like these little things, like maybe after church on Sunday, we took a drive down to the river it was Delaware River between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And we would watch like the barges go up and down the river. And my mom would pack lunches and we would sit there in the park and just watch them and watch the planes take off. That wasn't like just a summer thing, you know? It's like
Right. Right.
anytime you take those moments for connection, I mean, those are the special things. We don't have to limit it, to our
Yeah.
summer season or to the holidays or
Right.
anything like that. These are the moments that we can sprinkle throughout. And actually that's why the connection is so important because it's not like, oh, well, it's summer, so now we have to create this connecting time,
Right.
and how many times can summers become stressful because we're
Right.
trying to cram in all of the connecting time in the summer,
Right.
and then
Right.
kids are miserable, they feel stressed, you feel stressed. I mean, it's, nobody's having a good time. You know,
Right.
we use our summers, yes, absolutely, but we're sprinkling these things all throughout the year, all throughout our day. Just finding those moments where we can connect and then being intentional as well. Because if we're not intentional, these things will not get done. They just won't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, totally. And almost like scheduling in. I say this all the time and it sounds terrible, but I will literally write in my calendar like play a game with the kids. Like scheduling that time
Mhm.
in during the week. It can be a work day, it can be a whatever. And just after dinner, we're playing Uno or after, and it's
Right.
just that being intentional because I truly believe it's quality, not quantity. So you can
Exactly.
jam your summer up with, vacations and do all these things and day trips and, in between camps and everything else we've got going on. But are you truly enjoying it? Are you more stressed? Are you more anxious? Are you more, or can you just throughout the year, like even it doesn't have to be these like astronomical, huge,
Right.
costly sitting down and playing Go Fish after dinner, or just, like doing a devotional before bed, reading a chapter a night. Everybody's doing it together and taking turns,
Hmm.
like little things. And you're so right. It's truly being intentional with your time, making a
Right.
plan and really making it a point to do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so hopefully, you could take, any of these tips, hopefully will be helpful that you could use and foster that deeper connection with your teen, encouraging conversation, especially that open conversation, mutual respect as well, and that whole shared enjoyment, like you were saying, enjoying your kids and just sharing that time together.
Awesome. Thank you. I know for me personally, I just feel like a piece. Like this is stuff that I'm going to start now. Um, and I know it's things that we can do into it doesn't, I just have a piece about, this is things that you can do forever with your kids. As long
Mhm.
as you're alive, these are things that you can be doing, even if your kids are in their 30s, like still things
That's
that
right.
you can do. Um, One last thing before you go, if you were to give, a mom, because these are the moms that I'm talking to, and you have
Mhm.
given them some incredible tips to connecting with their teams. But if you have a mom that is struggling, who feels burnt out, overwhelmed, what is one piece of advice you would give her for herself?
Oh my, yeah, mom, you have to take care of yourself. Um, there's that saying, it's very popular, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't, and we've been kind of programmed to be all things to everybody at all times, right? And you can't. So take that time, I watched one of your videos, I think it was maybe it was yesterday, I can't remember, about how you start your day.
Yeah.
Right. Take that time in the morning just for you or wherever it fits in your day, truthfully, because maybe the morning is not the time for you to do that,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it's just kind of harried and you feel more stressed and you don't have and you would feel more stressed if you tried to take time in the morning. Find some moments in the day where you can just do something that is just for your enjoyment. Whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's taking a bubble bath, or maybe it's just sitting out in your backyard reading a book for 15 minutes. I mean, that was a huge thing for me to be able to get 15 minutes of just me time because I couldn't always guarantee I was going to get like a me day, a
Right.
me
Right.
day,
Yeah.
that was luxury. But if I could get 15 minutes where I could just go somewhere and do something that was just for me, then I felt like I could go back and continue and do it joyfully,
Yeah.
because I've taken that time for myself. I feel like that is really crucial. And, I love what you're doing, Jessica, and inspiring moms to do things like that and to realize that they do have to care for themselves first so they have what they need to be able to give to their families. And what you're doing is just incredible work. And, you know, I'm so
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited for you and for the moms.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wouldn't have Happy Moms wouldn't be successful and I wouldn't have a group without guests like you who are coming and pouring their hearts because I'm just facilitating. You guys are I'm so grateful. So much knowledge, so much wisdom, so much growth because of people like you pouring your hearts out to us. So thank you. Thank you for being a part. Thank you for giving us an hour of your time. I am so grateful. And if anybody has any questions regarding teens information, your program,
Mhm.
I will share Robin's information in the group so that if any point they want to reach out to you, you will have access to her.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. You as well.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.